You are listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place. All right.
Okay, now I'm recording.
Have I told you that a friend of mine's impression of me, this is going back like probably 15 years, was, all right.
I would believe that, yes.
He had a way of like boiling people down to like one or two phrases.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting there and I said something to him and he just goes, Mammy, all right. And I was like, wait, is that supposed to be me? And he was like, that is you.
That's funny.
And my response was, all right. Just, not even a word, it's a noise. And I'm like, you know, I'm saying all right. And he was like, yeah, but you're not.
There's a term for that I just learned and I don't remember it now. So this is going to be the worst of anecdotes, but there's a term for words that are conventionally pronounced totally differently from how they're spelled, to the point that their pronunciation has very little relationship to their spelling.
That was an overly academic response. Not much unlike your t-shirt.
Indeed.
I loved it.
The example that was given in the thing that I watched was and, which almost everybody in conversation pronounces as
Yeah, like stuff and stuff.
Homes and gardens.
Words are funny. Actually, that is relevant to the sentence I'm about to share with you. But first,
please do.
I am your co-host, award-winning podcaster, thanks to you, Charlie Mushaw.
And I am your other co-host, multi-award-winning novelist and award-winning podcaster, thanks to y'all, the listeners, Michael G. Williams.
So the big news is, we won the WRAL Voters' Choice Awards. And that is 100% an award for the listeners because they are the ones that voted. And more importantly, I think it's a win for what I consider our community, because we do have people online that not only share stories with us, but share stories back and forth in comment sections and online and via email. And it's just so cool. It feels like a real win for a lot of people.
Yeah, it really does feel like a huge group effort that everybody gets to have won together.
And understanding that it is super annoying when shows are like, vote for us, vote for us, vote for us, over and over for every little thing. We promise not to bug you, at least until next year's WRAL Voters' Choice Awards.
Nominations open in September, so we've got a clean 8 months.
Yeah, there you go. And in the meantime, if anybody's listening to us for the first time since that award, we do have a standing offer of free stickers. So if you would like an Arcane Carolina sticker, feel free to send us an email and we will get you a sticker. The email is arcanecarolinas@gmail.com.
Yeah, we love sending out stickers. I sent somebody stickers this week.
I gave people stickers at the thing.
Yes, you gave the MCs stickers at the thing.
Kind of stole a moment there. If you'd like to see it, it's around the 1 hour and 30 minute mark on the on the video.
It was really funny.
Yeah, nobody else did it. I figured we should do it.
Yeah.
So today's topic is a very community driven one. And that's why I thought it was appropriate to finally pull that out of the barrel and do it today, since we were just talking about a community win.
Okay.
This is another community win out of the town of Mebane, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. I think I know what we're going to talk about.
Fun fact, the town of Mebane is located in both Orange and, pronounced it the way it's spelled there, Alamance County. It has 2 area codes for phones. It receives broadcasts from 2 television markets, the Triad and the Triangle. And there's 2 years that it was potentially founded. There's conflicting sources.
There's all kinds of duality in this. Please go on.
Right. So it was either 1880 or 1881. It was founded as Mebansville.
Mebansville.
Mebansville is named after the Revolutionary War general and later Congressman Alexander Mebane.
Okay.
What does seem to be no duality here, it does seem to have been renamed simply Mebane in 1883. Like definitively, they're like, Mebansville. Let's just cut the bill off.
There's something that's just so funny to me about, like, it suggests that there's this story of half the town wanted Mebansville, half the town wanted just Mebane. Eventually, somebody new moved in and the Mebane side convinced them.
I would just tell people that I was Mebanese.
Oh, God.
Just watch the gears turn. Where are you from? Oh, I'm Mebanese.
Okay.
It'd be great. People would be so confused. They'd be like, wait, what?
They would be. Yeah.
It's home to a 99-cent book warehouse called Fifth Street Books.
Really?
Yeah. I called them and everything just to be like, are y'all still in business?
I've never heard of it and I need to go.
Yeah. They also have Dickie Doo's Barbecue, which is excellent. If you're looking it up, Dickie Doo's is technically in Haw River, but it's Mebane. You can just go to Mebane. You'll find it.
The thriving suburb, Haw River.
There you go.
I really love Haw River.
Perhaps most importantly, it is the source of a classic meme. Do you know the picture of the little girl looking at the camera mischievously while a house burns behind her?
Yes, absolutely.
That's Mebane.
She's Mebanese.
She's a Mebanite.
She's a Mebanite.
She's a Mebanese Mebanite. Yeah. Her name is Zoe Roth.
Okay.
She's like internet famous. The picture is from the corner of West Holt and South 4th Street. And it's very important to note that no one was actually hurt in the fire and she didn't start it. It was a training fire for the fire department.
Oh, that's all good news. That's all really good news.
Right. But that classic meme comes from Mebane.
That's wild. I never would have guessed that.
Yeah. I always get a kick out of when you hear people, and this isn't making fun of people. It's just, sometimes you move to an area and you don't know how to pronounce something.
Yeah.
Mebane? Like, no, it's Mebane.
There used to be a guy who made videos for the North Carolina State Library, maybe the museum. I don't remember. The North Carolina Museum of History, one or the other. And one of his series of videos was badly pronounced towns in North Carolina. And it was very funny. And Mebane was one of them.
I mean, I think we've all been guilty of at some point of mispronouncing something.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks to you listeners that let me know regularly. We're all aware that I do it.
I also do it on the regular. It's okay. It's the thing we've talked about. It's readers' vocabulary.
Right.
A lot of these are words we don't hear if we didn't grow up there. Because they're town names that we don't hear if we didn't grow up there.
But most importantly, for Arcane Carolinas, Mebane is home to a few ghost stories and interesting history centered around a rock.
Do tell.
This particular rock generated quite a big hubbub about 2 years ago when there was a development going in at the site of said rock, and they were going to destroy it for traffic flow because it was deemed to be immovable. It's an immovable impediment to traffic.
I will hand them that it's a pretty big rock.
It's a big rock. And folks that have been with us for a little while might remember I went out there, and it might have been our very first live stream where I went out there and was like, hey, here's this rock. There's a petition. A guy named Jay Allen started this change.org petition to save the Mebane Rock. And I am here to support that effort. And it was a big community win because the rock is still there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty legitimate to say that we might have been part of that hubbub.
I mean, I voted for the change.org petition to save the rock.
So did I.
So yeah, we were promoters of hubbub.
We were at minimum hubbub adjacent.
Hubbub adjacent. So what's up with this rock? Because we didn't go into it. All we said was save the rock. And we kind of left it at that at the time, promising that we'd eventually get around to talking about it. And that time has come.
Good deal.
This time almost came at GalaxyCon Raleigh last summer when you were like, Charlie, do you want to talk about this rock?
When we were like, what do you mean? We have a second hour?
Yeah, they're like, you have a second hour to fill. We were like, what? And I was like, check the notes. And you were like, you have something in here titled Rock Talk. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to share the rock.
Fair enough.
But today we will share the rock. So the legend of Stagecoach Rock, which is what it's referred to, located near the corner of Lebanon Road and East Stagecoach Road. It's very near Lake Michael, which has a very nice parking area. And, you don't have to park in the neighborhood if you feel weird about that. You can park there and walk down the road and look at it. It's also just a nice lake. But the rock itself is inscribed with a number of names and dates going back to the 1800s, carved into the rock.
Are these, you're probably about to say this. I'll stop.
So the legend has it that one of the most prominent names on the rock, very large and centered, Jay Whitaker, is someone that died in a stagecoach accident at the site and is buried at the rock.
Ugh.
So it's like a giant gravestone, essentially, that then other people carve their names into for some reason.
A memorial for this person who died on that spot.
Perfect use of the word. But there's a few variations. The general story goes that this was like a stretch of rural, borderline wilderness at the time of Whitaker's demise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a route between Greensboro and Raleigh.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming it's Stagecoach Road because this was the stagecoach route.
Right. And hence why it is the Stagecoach Rock.
Yeah.
How many times can we say Stagecoach? This episode's brought to you by Big Stagecoach.
Wells Fargo proudly sponsors. Yeah.
Yeah. So on a fateful day in 1828, Mr. Whitaker was working as a stagecoach driver, and he lost control of the horses pulling his vehicle. So it was like a runaway coach. And while trying to regain control, it hit a particularly rough patch in the road, and he was thrown from the front of the coach.
Ooh.
And smacked his head on the rock.
Oh,
dying instantly.
Yowza.
Yeah.
Oh, those things didn't have seatbelts, that's for sure.
Nope. So the horses eventually settle down and stop, and the people in the stagecoach get out, but they're in the middle of nowhere.
Well, yeah.
And they don't have anywhere to put this. I mean, it's a dead person, but it's also a mess, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have anywhere to put this mess. So they bury him on the spot. They're like, okay, well, here's this big rock. This is where he died. We'll put him here. We'll know that he was here. And then later, people went out and carved his name into the rock.
Oh, okay. Because of the name, my assumption had been that this was a stagecoach stop for, whatever people lived within traveling distance of this as a place between Greensboro and Raleigh where they could catch the stagecoach, because stagecoach routes would have, I guess the closest equivalent would be modern day bus stops. Mm-hmm. Where there'd be places where people would gather to catch the stagecoach when it went by.
So it became that eventually.
Oh, okay.
That's another variation, is that it is a place where people would whittle away the hours waiting for a stagecoach.
Yeah.
So it became like a landmark. Another version has that he is buried under the rock, not nearby, but under the rock.
An immovable impediment, huh?
It's a boulder.
Yeah.
We'll get to the geological, like what it is.
Okay.
Later. My favorite part of the legend is that you can see a headless horseman either standing by the rock some nights, and particularly on stormy nights when the road would be rough and difficult to drive, a spectral stagecoach driven by a headless figure will fly down the road and then disappear at the rock.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. I'm going to go camp in people's front yards now.
Right, because there is a neighborhood there now.
Yeah.
They didn't build the neighborhood.
It's no longer the middle of nowhere.
Right. Pretty cool legend. Several different variations on it. I'm sure that I missed one of them somewhere. Everybody's got their own little flavor they'll throw on it. But the verifiable history around the rock is interesting. There is a local Stagecoach Rock enthusiast named Gary Clark who has done a lot of research. Like, Mr. Clark loves this rock and spoke to Chapelboro about it.
Good for him.
And he pointed out that in addition to the J. Whitaker name, there are not only earlier names on it, which we'll get to, but the initials of someone in the direct lineage of the town's namesake.
Oh. Down
near the dirt. You kind of like, he posted a picture, or shared a picture rather, with Chapelboro. You kind of had to scrape away some of the mud and the dirt at the bottom. But B.H. Mebane is inscribed on it. And that is believed to be Banks Holt Mebane, who was the great nephew of Alexander Mebane.
Interesting. Huh. What was his time frame?
Much later than Whitaker.
Yeah.
But Whitaker is the point of the legend, right? We'll get to the other names, but Whitaker.
So to make sure that I'm getting it correctly, Whitaker's accident happened. His name was inscribed. And then since then, names have been added.
That is what the legend says.
Okay.
But who is J. Whitaker? Did this happen?
Right.
The site is registered as a cemetery site online, which is kind of funny.
Really?
Yeah. There's like, you can register like lost cemeteries and stuff. Someone took the time to register it as a cemetery.
Oh, that's fantastic.
In 1975, there was a newspaper article in the Mebane Enterprise written by someone named Sandra J. Harris, who interviewed an 89-year-old man named C.E. Patterson. Mr. Patterson said that he had been in Mebane since arriving via mule from Kentucky in 1894.
Wow.
Yeah. So Patterson said that he had heard the story of the rock as a kid, and it was common knowledge in the area that Whitaker had died and was buried near there, and the name was on the rock. But that over the years, it had become overgrown with kudzu.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this article was also to celebrate the fact that in October of 1975, his cousin and his nephew, his cousin's name was W.T. Patterson and his nephew was named Joe Rice, to give full credit where credit's due, had them clear the vines and kudzu and the shrubs and everything, like basically cleared the area around the rock again so that people could continue to see it and that the story could continue to be told.
Wow. I like everything about this.
Now, his version of the ghost has the headless guy just standing there. He doesn't have the stagecoach.
Mm-hmm.
But he did say, it was like, yeah, this guy died. He was a stagecoach driver, thrown from the stagecoach, smacked his head, died, buried on the site. inscribed the name. Now his ghost shows up.
And this is somebody who's basically a contemporary source who was hearing this story in the 19th century.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I
Pretty cool.
like this. Yeah, that's really cool.
We've talked a lot about birth and death records. Birth and death records are kind of hard to come by sometimes because the state didn't require such records as mandatory until much later than 1828.
Yeah, we've run into that on lots of stories.
And sometimes local repositories are destroyed by fire or water or just simply thrown out due to age. But tax dollars at work here, and I'm so happy about it. The North Carolina State Archives digital collection did have a collection of scans of Whitaker family Bibles.
Oh, yeah. They sometimes get big family Bibles like that.
Yep, which is where a lot of rural record keeping would occur. And I was able to find a John Whitaker with no definitive death date. So maybe it didn't have a birth date either, but it was sitting right nestled in the early 1800s. And it just said John Whitaker, D, or died.
I like that.
Because if he was out on a route and they didn't get him till much later or get the news until much later, like stands to reason.
It's arguably circumstantial, but it sure as heck does not contradict the story.
Yeah, it's not authoritative, but it's more than I found in any newspaper clippings.
Yeah.
What is decisive is no one is buried under the rock.
I would expect not.
I did like a little geological survey while trying to figure out like, what are we going to do about this rock that people are all riled up about? And it's actually the top of a much larger piece of stone or structure. It's like the top of a little iceberg.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of times rocks like that, aren't they basically icebergs in the sense that you see a very small portion of it?
Right. It would look like a tiny mountain.
Yeah.
That's not to say that somebody isn't buried nearby.
Sure.
Or what I think, my personal theory aligns with what you said, was that it's probably just a memorial, like a marker, right? Bodies are exhumed and moved.
Yeah.
Who's to say the family wasn't like, okay, well, we want to move him to the family plot.
We have a story coming up in March where the very first thing that happens is a couple of people die. They are buried in the location where they die. And then days later, their family shows up to exhume the bodies to take them to where they would normally bury them.
And I say all of this to drive home the point. Please don't go poke at the rock or try to dig up around it.
Don't destroy everything but the rock in the name of preserving the rock.
Right. There's already been some damage done to the rock, which we'll get to in a moment when I read the names off of.
Okay.
But kind of hilariously first, before we get to that, because I want to disprove what I'm about to share by sharing the names. There is an absolutely mean-spirited article on alamancenews.com that says, and I quote, "The rock is of no historical significance and doesn't warrant enthusiasm or sentimentality."
Wow. Somebody's got a cousin who's a developer.
Right. And I'm like, the author doesn't even take credit. It's just signed as staff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, they are trolling. They know. I have a theory that because it's Alamance News, they're just jealous that the rock is on the Orange County side of the line.
Maybe.
It's a real Shelbyville, Springfield situation.
That's funny.
So the names on the rock. We'll do the names on the rocks, and it's kind of the last of the verifiable history. W.A. Ray, dated 1811. Ray Witt, dated 1817. Big, prominent, biggest one on there, dead smack center. J. Whitaker, 1828. B.H. Mebane, 1906. Undated, L.A. Morton. I mentioned the damage that had been done to the rock. Jacob Bell, that now reads like Taco Bell.
That's really funny.
Like the part of the J got chipped off and part of the B. And I'm just like, when I was out there taking pictures, I'm like, does it say Taco Bell? No, it's Jacob Bell.
Bless.
Crunch Rock Supreme. Oh, man. But yeah, in conclusion, I think it's great that the rock was preserved. People have been carving their names into it for almost 200 years at this point. Like, I'd be willing to wager that the Whitaker story holds some water. A neighborhood's there. And I hope that the spot continues to see some love from people that want to pop by and see a piece of local history. And I hope the ghost still shows up.
Yeah. just the fact that there are names and dates as early as 1811 says to me that obviously this rock is of historical value. It clearly played a role in the lives of the people in that community in some way. Sure. So it's graffiti, quote unquote. So is half of what we know about ancient Rome. Like you look at the history of some place like Pompeii and things like that would have been considered meaningless in the time that they were created are now very valuable historical artifacts. And I'm not trying to equate this rock to graffiti on a wall in Pompeii, obviously.
I am. Save the rock.
200 years is a little different from 2,000 years. Sure, great. But that doesn't mean that it's valueless either. Like I feel like there's the potential by preserving it. There is the potential for meaning to be revealed over time there. Some descendant or whatever, the great nephew of one of the other names on there is eventually going to come along and say, hey, that was my ancestor.
And I am Taco Bell Jr.
I am Taco Bell the 17th. And, and this is the place where my empire started. So I don't know. I really like the fact that that's there. I like the fact that that's preserved. There's so much history in the Carolinas that is ultimately on the long term, it's pretty fleeting. On the scale of an average human lifespan, it feels so permanent. But so much of what we have that is preserved is just like a completely, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's very short-lived.
Ethereal.
Yeah, exactly. So many of the things that we think of as permanent structures, buildings, whatever, even just gravestones in a graveyard, the things that we literally build to be memorials, quote unquote, forever, those have to be cleaned and maintained. They fall over all the time. They become obscured. Names get lost. Dates get lost. It becomes impossible to tell whose it is. Stuff like this is worth preserving.
Just this past weekend, I was out I posted about this on Instagram at Arcane Carolinas. Plug. You know where else you can get the link to the Instagram? www.arcanecarolinas.com.
Also a permanent memorial to, I don't know.
Right.
Memorial's not the right word.
Yeah. I'm not dead yet. I went to Rock Springs Cemetery because there's like an abandoned chapel there. Somebody obviously still keeps an eye on like the gates locked and, it's not falling down. So somebody make sure it's not falling down. But the cemetery itself has all these stones that have either eroded away or even there's markers. You can tell it's a grave marker, but it's essentially just a rock. It's not even a headstone with any details that you can see are weathered and super old. It's an interesting spot. I'm sure somebody that's into tracking genealogy and that sort of thing has a lot more information than I was able to glean by walking around. But yeah, these were meant to be permanent markers. And however many 150 years later, some strangers walking around on a Sunday morning going, I wonder what that one said. Yeah. Wow, that was a real downer. It was a great Legends. Awesome. Really glad the rock got preserved.
Yes.
I like the ghost story. I think it's a fun ghost story. I think if I lived closer and was younger and had more time, I would probably drive out there late at night. But I will be in my bed, safe and warm on a stormy night. Maybe it'll cross my mind. Maybe the ghost is out tonight.
If I lived across the street from that rock, my neighbors would get very tired of seeing me in my window.
It'd be like a real rear window situation.
Yeah, they'd be like, what is he staring at? Oh, that guy's such a creep.
That's the second Jimmy Stewart reference in a month.
That's a great performance by him because he's in horror.
Yeah, and he's not yelling. Oh!
Yeah.
He kind of does it at one spot. But anyway.
In a movie that's too long. Rear Window, great movie. But no, I'm really, really glad that this got preserved. I'm really glad that people were able to speak out and convince the town to tell the developer to do something different.
Absolutely. This was a community win.
Yeah.
Not much unlike the community win that brought home the Raleigh WRL Voters' Choice Award.
I mean, you get a historical marker on that thing or next to it, and everybody's house in that neighborhood is going to go up in value immediately.
Speaking of historical markers, we actually submitted a request for a historical marker on a little bit of folklore and found out that the fund, the trust, whatever, the money's gone essentially for historical.
Really?
Marker. Yes. The budget at the time that we submitted our request, we did get a reply and they said, we don't have the money do this right now for your submission. It does align with this other private company that does markers. So seek them out. We talk about tax dollars at work. Your tax dollars fund those markers.
Yeah.
And it is a part of the state budget.
And it's too small a part of the state budget, apparently.
But anyway, where are we next live, Michael?
Next, we'll be live, potentially repeatedly, at RETCon in Cary, North Carolina in February.
Yep, you can check us out. Good information on that on our Instagram or Facebook pages. We quit Twitter. We never really did much with it, but we quit Twitter. So if you're looking for us on there, don't expect much.
I do occasionally check to see if we have gotten a message on there, but if you message us on Twitter, then it's going to take a long time for us to see it and respond. So arcanecarolinas@gmail.com is way better.
Yeah, that one's probably the fastest way to get a response these days.
Easily.
One more quick thing about social media and on messages. If you have sent us a message on Instagram and didn't get a reply, send us an email because I just found out that it's been filtering a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah. See, that's why I don't trust the messaging via social media.
Like I saw stuff that people had sent us months after they sent it. And I was like, oh, man, because we try to be responsive.
Yeah. The thing to keep in mind is social media, it is just a great big old dinner bell for spam and spam bots and things like that. All the social media sites that offer messaging as part of their service, that messaging is kind of an add-on, and they know that all the spam bots are going to use it. And so they may really amp up the filtering, and a lot of real people's messages get left out, never get delivered, you never get seen. So use email because that was designed to deliver your message.
Well, thanks a lot. I will sign us off.
And, if you do send us an email, then make sure that your name doesn't get turned into Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Or do. I don't know. Whatever. It's up to you.
I saw a meme the other day that had 3 different Taco Bell sauce packets. And it said, you're old if you've witnessed these 3 packets. And I was like, I have witnessed those 3 packets. I remember when Baja Blast was new.
It occurs to me that it's possible that Jacob Bell chiseled his name and then stepped back and was like, if I just took the curl off that J, it'd be Taco Bell. And then he just picked his chisel right back up. It was just like, ha, and he basically prank called everyone via Stagecoach Rock.
It's a Mebanese joke that goes back decades.
Anyway, yes. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, give us a rating, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, send us an email and tell us why. If you're not wrong, we'll try to fix it.
And if you're interested in award-winning speculative fiction, including science fiction, urban fantasy, and horror, find me, Michael G. Williams, at michaelgwilliamsbooks.com and check out Falstaff Books at falstaffbooks.com.
If you'd like to pick up some Arcane Carolinas merch, look at behind-the-scenes info, pictures, videos, stuff like that, all the things that get cut, check out arcanecarolinas.com, where you can get access to our Patreon, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, all that in one place, including the merch store. Buy a shirt.
Clothe your body.
Drape your body in our wares.
Be our living billboards.
Book warehouse called Fifth Street called Let me just do that whole sentence again.
That'll make a great stinger, though. The thriving suburb of Mebane